And what if the last breath isn't the end, but the beginning of something much greater? No one teaches you how to die, but perhaps that's where the mistake begins, because death, as the ancients used to say, is not an end. It's a bend in the road, a pause between two measures. Some describe it as a silence so pure that even the mind hesitates before crossing it. And what if, in that moment, what you call I doesn't vanish, but merely changes its clothing? Maybe the last breath isn't the closing act, but the first page of something that has always been written. And now you begin to read it with your own eyes. When the heart slows down, something remains. It's not the body nor a thought, it's a subtle presence, a clarity that doesn't need form to exist. It watches the body as someone looks at an old photograph, with affection, but without belonging. In that moment there is no pain, no cold. There is a light that comes from nowhere. It's not sunlight nor the glow of lamps. It's a brightness that casts no shadow, a simple yet devastating revelation. What shines isn't outside, it's within. Many turn their gaze away because it's hard to face one's own nature without the masks we wear in life. Then the old habit awakens. The attachment to form tries to cling to what's familiar. The mind searches for references, a name, a voice, a house, a scent. It tries to return through the door that is already closed. It tries to speak, to touch, to make noise for the living. But the physical world vibrates at another frequency, and silence responds gently yet firmly. In that emptiness, consciousness begins to build bridges, memories, voices, recollections that seem real. And that's how illusions are born, soft, familiar, almost comforting. Time now is no longer time. A second can stretch into an endless road, and a day can fit into a blink. In this in-between realm, the mind is the stage, the character, and the story. If it recognizes this, it navigates. If it doesn't, it gets lost. Here arise the first luminous presences, gentle forms emanating compassion. They aren't angels or messengers. They are reflections of one's own clarity, expressions of the mind reminding itself of where it came from. If you recognize them as part of yourself, they dissolve into peace. If you doubt, they turn into mist. Doubt is the pigment that darkens every image. Where there was light, shadows appear. Where there was serenity, come echoes and voices whispering what you fear to hear. It isn't punishment. It's the mind displaying the catalog of its own fears. What in life hid behind words and disguises now reveals itself with precision. The fear of losing. The fear of being forgotten. The fear of not having been enough. They are just forms, yet they feel as real as touch. And the more you try to flee, the more solid they become. Salvation lies in the pause. Observe without fighting. Recognize that everything arising is projection. Nothing there can hurt you, except the belief you grant to what you see. Call each monster by its true name, fear, guilt, attachment, and it will lose its strength. Call it reality, and it will grow until it fills the whole horizon. This is the first great trial. To see without confusion, to accept without sinking. And when the mind finally tires of running, a silence appears that isn't absence but pure presence. It is the mirror. There are no judges, no gods, no tribunal. There is only the experience of living everything again, but differently. Every gesture returns like a wave. The harsh word returns as pain. Kindness returns as warmth. The good you did, the evil you pretended not to see. All of it reveals itself, not as memory, but as sensation. It's a sea of emotions, sometimes gentle, sometimes stormy. And in it, what saves you isn't swimming against the tide but learning to float. Those who understand this begin to free themselves. Those who try to justify themselves sink. It's the ego trying to save what no longer exists. The soul realizes, too late for many, that there's nothing to defend, because there never was an enemy. Only the reflection of one's own fear. Little by little, the sea of memories begins to calm. The mirror is still before you, but the reflection no longer hurts. What once felt like judgment now seems like understanding. There's a quiet tenderness in the air, as if existence itself were saying, "I understand." In that instant, a choice appears. It has no voice, no form. It's a silent question vibrating in space. Do you wish to keep learning within time, or dissolve into what you have always been? Most don't notice the question. The mind, accustomed to movement, seeks solid ground. It wants to do, to fix, to correct. It feels guilt, wishes to make amends, longs to return. And in that longing, it creates a thread, a tie that begins to pull it back toward the familiar. It is attachment disguised as love, and that tie, so human and understandable, marks the beginning of the return. Yet there is still a chance. The chance not to react, to simply be. In that moment, the presences return, some beautiful, others disturbing. All echoes of something still pulsing within. The figures of light try to guide. The shadows test the steadiness of your gaze. None are enemies. They are teachers speaking in different voices. Fear, desire, regret, all appear as lessons asking for acceptance, not escape. Time, if it still exists, changes its texture. The visions grow subtler. There are no gods or monsters anymore, only memories of possibilities. The weary soul begins to recognize the pattern. Everything that arises comes from within. Everything that shines or threatens comes from the same source. Understanding starts to expand, and with it comes a sense of relief. But soon the cycle offers its final test. Suddenly everything grows still. The chaos dissolves. The brightness softens. And something new appears, almost sweet. It's no longer fear or judgment. It's an invitation. The familiar call of someone you loved, a scent from childhood, an echo of old laughter. Everything feels welcoming. The mind, which once ran from the shadows, now runs toward the light. And within that tenderness lies the hidden trap. This is the final illusion. It doesn't frighten, it enchants. It's the comfort that cradles the return. The soul sees luminous doors, each with its own color, vibration, and promise. Some shine with joy, others seem like mist. Every door leads to a path, a new story. And the choice, though it feels natural, is the point of no return. The desire to return is magnetic. It isn't thought, and it's instinct. The impulse to keep existing, to feel again, to fix what went wrong. The call is too strong, and when consciousness follows it, it's already too late. One of the doors opens. The pull grows like an invisible current. The body begins to form. Consciousness contracts, memories fade. And the cycle begins anew. A new name, a new skin, a new life. But there are those who stay. Few. They are the ones who see through the trick in time. They don't resist, they simply recognize. They know that all the doors are only reflections of the same mind trying to find itself. They don't run, they don't choose, they don't refuse. They remain lucid. And in that stillness the entire scene dissolves. The light, once external, reveals itself as internal. And then there is no inside or outside, only clarity. They say this is the moment of liberation. There is no triumph, no fanfare. It's simple, almost ordinary in its depth. The cycle closes, not through escape, but through understanding. Awakening is not an explosion, it is silence. A silence so absolute that all that remains is presence. For those who return, learning continues. For those who awaken, learning becomes compassion. Some choose to return, not out of attachment, but out of love. They come back to light candles where there was once fear, and even a conscious return is just another way of teaching. Because deep down, no one truly returns. It's all the same movement of being experiencing itself. According to ancient traditions, these stages last 49 days, or as long as the mind needs to understand what binds it. But the number is only a symbol. The real time is the time of perception. Each soul takes as long as it takes to understand, and when it does, the cycle ends, not by decree, but by lucidity. The end of the Bardo is not a door closing, but a window opening. On the other side, there is no promise or punishment. There is only what has always been there: consciousness, vastness, and a silence that no longer needs form. Perhaps the true lesson of death isn't about dying, but about living in a way that makes the crossing unsurprising. What is discovered in that final instant is that everything that once seemed distant, light, silence, truth, has always been here, between one breath and the next, in the pauses that haste wouldn't let us see. The Bardo is not a hidden realm tucked away somewhere in the universe. It reveals itself with every loss, every new beginning, every time you close a door without knowing what lies beyond. When a relationship ends, when a part of you ceases to exist, when the past keeps calling and you choose not to answer. It's the same training, happening on a smaller scale. You feel the flash of uncertainty, then the projections, the voices whispering, "What if I had done things differently?" Then the mirror, "What did I learn from this?" And finally the doors and the invitation to be born again. The cycle doesn't need physical death to repeat itself. It's present in every change you face with both fear and hope. An entire life is a rehearsal for the moment when the lights come on and the film ends. It's then you realize the projector was always the mind, that the script was improvised, and that the spectator and the actor were the same person. The practice is to rise from your seat without hurry, without confusing yourself with the character. The film was never the enemy. The problem was forgetting it was a film. That's why living consciously is preparing to die awake. It's seeing illusions before they have to roar to be noticed. It's laughing at fear before it disguises itself as truth. It's recognizing your own reflection and saying, "I see you." It's having the courage to let go of the narrative, even when it feels too beautiful to end. Some think that this clarity is surrender, but it's the opposite. It's the peak of presence. Those who learn to die a little each day, letting go of pride, guilt, resentment, become too light to be dragged when the great current comes. And when it comes, because it always does, there is no panic. There is recognition. It's like meeting an old friend in the midst of the unknown. Clarity isn't something to be attained. It's something to be remembered. They say that in the end, when everything dissolves, the light asks nothing. It simply shows, and what it shows is too simple to describe. It isn't a place or an event. It's the silent realization that there was never any distance between the seeker and what was sought. Consciousness realizes it has always been the sky, and all the clouds that seemed like problems were just fleeting shapes of itself. If you understand this while still alive, every gesture becomes a rehearsal for eternity. The way you speak to someone who's tired, the attention you give to a stranger, the silence you choose before reacting, all of it is practice. It's the soul learning not to flee from clarity, and when that practice accumulates, the moment of death ceases to be a shock and becomes a return. Perhaps one day, at the end of everything, you'll remember these words. Or perhaps not. Perhaps you'll simply feel, without knowing why, an ancient serenity, a nameless recognition. And in that instant when clarity opens before you, don't run, don't cling, just breathe. What comes isn't the end. It's the beginning of seeing without a veil. It's the moment when fear bows and gives way to what has always awaited you. The simple, the vast, the eternal. And if on that day you smile without knowing why, it will be because you finally remembered.